back, everybody, for another wonderful episode of the Sisters Chat. We hope you are okay and still hanging in there after missing 1 week. We don't know what you did on that lonely Friday without us, but we have faith that you pulled through. We had a wonderful Hanukkah. Me and Ayla spent some time in Muncie, and we thought, that's it. We're hanging out by ourselves in a quiet little, area in Chestnut Ridge. And then everywhere we go, people were stopping us. We went out to eat, and people said, "Wait, are you the sisters from the Sisters Chat?"
True story.
So we are like, oh, we thought we were on vacation, but now that we're celebrities, I guess there's never.
No, but the part is that Mommy and Tati said, "Isn't it nice to be here where nobody knows us?" And then this whole family stopped and they're like, "And you're the mother from the Sisters Chat." Said, "No such luck anymore."
Exactly. Coming back, we wanted to come back with a bang and something exciting and meaningful and educational, Sisters Chat style, well-rounded. And it was my week to host, and I get to choose the guest. And I said, it is my baby's birthday tomorrow. And exactly 1 year ago, I was dancing in the hospital halls with Rochel Vail alongside me and helped me with a beautiful and miraculous birth. So I said, we are going to have Rochel Vail, the mother and grandmother of so many babies. Rochel, everywhere you walk and look, do you get so much nachas? I'm going to throw out a number and you guys are going to be shocked. Rochel is almost hitting her 5,000 mark. Rochel Vail is the Crown Heights doula. I feel like the original, when you say doula, we all think of Rochel. We actually all have, personal connections to Rochel. Her son Abi and our brother Gershi have been friends since they're 2.
3.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. 3. And she also delivered somebody on this chat. I'm not going to say right away. You're going to have to guess. So there's definitely a very special connection there, but it is so special to just think about, 1 year ago when my Princess Rania was delivered. And the most meaningful part, Rachel, is when you pulled out the recording of the Rebbe saying, "My Da'ani," the first thing for her to hear right when she came into this world. And we have so many things to ask you and so much we want to hear from you. But let's start with what made you go down this path? I feel like nowadays it's normal. A lot of people are becoming doulas, but I feel like for a long time you were like the one and only pioneer. So what was your first experience? How did you get into this line of miraculous work?
And I just want to say, Rachel, when Mushki and I literally, before we even started the Sisters Chat, we said, we need to do a podcast of meaningful people from Crown Heights. And she literally put your name first. She said, local celebrities that people need to know, like Rochel Vail, and she had a whole list. But this has been on our podcast vision board for so long. And we're just so glad you're here.
Well, when we were creating the Sisters Chat, we said we kind of wanted to feel like that bungalow colony cozy circle. And everyone knows when you have more than 2 ladies together in a circle, what you are talking about is birth stories. For some reason, they just come out. So what better way to start off our week here with a bunch of girls sharing birth stories with actually a professional. So it's not just us regurgitating those stories, but we have Rochel.
You know that they say that birth is the only thing that's comparable to fishing.
Fishing.
You go fishing for the first time and you catch a fish. It's about 3 inches long. But the next time you tell that story, you went fishing and it was 5 inches long. And by the time you've told your story 100 times, you caught that fish was big enough to feed the whole family.
You caught a whale.
Uh-huh.
And that's how right.
And that's about how birth stories go. My labor was 18 hours. Really? Oh, that's nothing. Mine was 19 and a half. Mine was 33. It grows and grows until it's a whale.
So we shouldn't fact check people's birthing stories, is what I'm hearing, or we should.
Yes, maybe.
So, how did you get into fishing, Rochel?
By accident.
Accident?
Completely.
Okay, this is exciting. Did
I
you like
have
catch somebody's baby on the street?
No, in the bathroom on the New York State Thruway.
Okay, tell us the whole story.
I have a thing about the New York State Thruway, you know. There's very big spaces between the exit, but I think, Manuch, I think you can attest to that. But she was not the one. I was,
Personally remember, but I believe you.
well, it started out when a very good friend of mine was planning on driving into the city to have her baby. Now, her husband worked in the city and he came up for weekends. And she was planning on taking a car service cab, whatever, to go into the city to have her baby. Her labors were always very, very, very long. So she figured she had plenty time. She'll take a car service. She'll meet her husband at the hospital, and they'll have their baby, and that'll be perfect. I said, "Are you kidding me? You're going to go by yourself in a car service? That's crazy. I'm up in the country. If you go into labor and your husband's not there, you'll give me a call. I'll come get you." I arranged a babysitter. I knew nothing at the time. I arranged a babysitter for during the week when her husband was not, he was supposed to be in the city, and they were going to take my three kids. My oldest was 4, baby was 2, and Abi, your brother's friend, was like 3 months. It was July 13th. He was born before Pesach, so about 3 months old. Anyway, comes Friday morning. Now, I know her husband came up Thursday night, so we're good. Friday morning, about 6-ish, my phone rings, and it's the husband. I said, "No, what she have? Mazel tov, what she have?" Car, blue smoke, transmission, we're stuck. Would you pick us up? And I said, "Sure." And I didn't have a babysitter, so I took my 3 kids before the days of car seats and such, threw them into the car, and went to pick them up where they were stuck on the side of the road. And we got on our way. Now, when she got into the car, she told her husband to shut up and move over. Now, if I knew then what I knew now, we probably would have not gone very far. It would have been the nearest hospital. But I had no clue, and she always had long labors, so we got on our way. We stopped at the Ramapo gas station because I needed gas and she needed to pee. If I knew then what I know now. And he pumped the gas. I went in to help her. And I put my hands out. If I was wearing a baseball glove, I would have caught like that. I caught a baby.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Are
Whoa.
you kidding? It was absolutely incredible. I didn't know how I would do it again, but I was going to do it again because it was the coolest thing I ever did. I had a towel in my car. Of course, I don't know if you guys, of course, you've been up in the country. The Ramapo gas station has about 15 stalls.
Sure.
So we were in the handicap one, and people were walking in and out, going,
Luxury.
"Oh my God, there's a lady having a baby in there." Yeah, we did. Anyway, I had a towel in my car because I had a bad sunburn. So, and she had her brand new robe, and somebody called 911, and we wrapped the baby up in the brand new robe, and the placenta was in the towel, and they wanted to take us to a local hospital, but they were going to separate mom and baby because the baby was born out of the hospital. And we decided that she did not want to be separated from her baby. So we got back into my car with the baby
And the
And
three
all your
kids.
kids.
and my 3 kids, who thought at that point, Yitzi was 4, so he was talking, babies come from bathrooms. I didn't correct him for a really long time, but we drove back to the city, went to the pediatrician, went to the OB, had breakfast, put the kids back in the car, and I drove back up to the country. They went to their home in the city, where they spent a very nice, quiet Shabbos. And I swore I would do it again.
I think
And
for most people would put them out of business, the story.
40 plus years later, and like you said, 5,000 births, if anybody ever had to do something by accident, that was it. It's been an incredible ride.
Wow.
An
Wow. That is
incredible
seriously.
ride.
So, what were you doing before Doula?
Oh, anything that made a couple dollars here and there to help out. I did a play group. I even drove women taxi service to the mikveh. Anything that
Wow.
made a few bucks. No first aid. Didn't know that. Um, the only connection I had with birth was my 3 kids. But I usually am known to kind of stay calm in a situation, and the rest is history. I said, somehow I'm doing it again. I decided to become an EMT, and I've been an EMT since. I did my EMT hours, the emergency hours in Brookdale Hospital, and I kind of became friendly with the director and the director of OB, and he invited me to come help and watch because they could always use an extra hand in Brookdale, and I did, and I did. And then I started going with, I went with my sister, I went with a close friend, and then the friend's friend, and the friend's friend's friend. And then I hooked up with an incredible midwife who used to be in Beth Israel. And Dr. Klinger at the time was Dr. Klinger, Dr. Swirsky, and then Dr. Dory joined. And between this midwife and the Klinger team, they literally held my hand and taught me so much. And yeah.
Rochel, I have a question. I feel like I kind of wish you come to California because I would love you. It sounds like Mushki always talks about you and how you guys had the best experience. I know I had 2 very different experiences with my births. My first one was a crazy situation. I had a normal pregnancy. I went to the doctor that morning. My fluid was low, so I went to go take a stress test, but they pushed me out because it was like such a big birthday. There was no beds for me. So me and my mother went out to eat. We were partying. Me and Manucha went to Home Goods. And I go back to the hospital. I'm starting to take my stress test. Obviously, I send a picture to my sisters to be like, oh, it's starting to happen. And then the nurse comes in and she's like, you failed the stress test. She's like, your baby's in distress. You have to go to a C-section. You have to get a cesarean. And me and my mother are like, what is this word cesarean that you keep saying?
Oh no.
And I rushed to the emergent to get like an emergency C-section, and I found out I had a cord prolapse with a placental abruption, and
Ooh.
I had a completely normal pregnancy, and I went through that morning and nothing seemed wrong, and then I had this traumatic birth experience.
Ooh.
But then Hashem paid me back with my second one being the most beautiful and calmest. So I'm really, really lucky. I had a successful VBAC, which was a big deal in my hospital. But I have a question, like, as a doula, how do you help people that go through a little bit of a traumatic birth, like how do you help them deal with it? And like, what is your role as a doula?
Okay. There's lots in that. Number one, were you feeling the baby move around as usual?
You know what? I had my placenta in the front, so I never really felt the baby. So I felt it a little bit in the morning, but it wasn't odd for me not to feel the baby.
And it was a first pregnancy. That's such an unusual situation.
They told me I had a 15-minute window between a baby that would be alive versus not.
So, number one, there's a fantastic book that I highly, highly recommend to anybody who has a traumatic birth. It's How to Heal from a Traumatic Birth. That's the title of the book. It's a fantastic book. It literally talks through all the craziness and how to deal with it. And it really made, as a doula, number one, I would not have made it there in time to be with you, but I definitely would have come afterwards. I once had a mom who had something called HELP syndrome, which was an emergency also. And I remember she ended up in the ICU. And I remember going to visit her and sitting with her and going over her birth and how it was as crazy as it was. And as crazy you say is, how could that have happened? Your hand was held throughout by that third partner. The Abisher held your hand. You went out to eat. You did what you needed to do. You came back in time, because that's when the Abisher got you there. And you have a beautiful baby to prove it. If you didn't have that third partner, I don't know how that outcome would have been. It's really scary. A miracle birth, my dear.
I do not take it for granted.
Do not. It's incredible.
Do you think that like what is like your role as like a doula that you'd go through like help someone?
Talking them through it, knowing that reminding them that it is not a common situation. And, they say there's the passenger, the passageway, and you. And it wasn't your problem, it wasn't your issue. So there'd be no reason why you shouldn't be able to VBAC. It was the passenger that caused the problems. It wasn't the passageway, it was the passenger. And by reinforcing the fact that there's no reason why you couldn't do a natural birth and getting you through those first couple of weeks and then occasionally through the months until you were pregnant again, and reminding you how it's not a typical situation and that my phone is available 24/7 if you have any doubts or any questions. But that's with all my moms.
Well, Rochel, thank God I didn't have any of those traumatic births. While you were saying that story, I was like holding my stomach because that could have been me quite a few times. Um, I must say, I'm here in Texas. Obviously, I can't use your services, but I should say, on behalf of all of us, we do have our mom who travels and comes to be our doula here in Texas, California, New York, New Jersey, and even a couple of years ago when my mother broke her leg. And I was, a couple of months pregnant, and we're like, Ma, I don't care what you got to do. You do those exercises. And literally for months, I think that was her like push to get her leg working. And she went from the bed with crutches, came all the way here, 2 flights
Amazing.
to
That
be
sounds
on
that
doula.
sounds like her. That
That
sounds like her.
so go, Mom. But yeah, so I've had some fast births. Hesha and Manucha could attest because they were one of my births, which was really my first, 4 hours from start to bottom. So I barely even like knew I was like having a baby because my other ones were much longer. And, I'm just talking to Ayla on the phone. And I said, oh, the morning today, my contractions are starting. And thank God I don't have ever Braxton Hicks. So if I start any type of like feeling, I like know I'm in labor, but it was just the morning. And she's like, Nini, you keep telling me you're having a contraction. Like they're coming pretty fast. Like I
Go
think
to the hospital.
I know the hospital is, so, we're like, okay, we better like start getting moving. I'm waking up my mother. I have Hesha Menucha going, but this is only like 2-3 hours in. And we actually get on our way because things just started to progress really fast. My husband ran to get me chocolate and we were ready to go. And yeah, we realize things are moving as we're getting there. And literally, I left my house at 9:45 and my baby was born at 9:54. So,
In the
yeah,
hospital?
thank God in the hospital. We did it in the hallway. My mother said I must have given some people some EKGs, like, heart attacks or I don't know what. It was like out of the movies, like Grey's Anatomy all the way, running with the stretcher. The nurse is screaming to Naftali, run with the, like, just run and catch her. It was pretty epic. But the funny part is that when my father called Hesha Menucha and then he said, like, Mazel Tov, they're like, for what? They're like, he's like, Nini had a baby. They're like, impossible. She just left the house. Like,
She
and
just left the house yelling, gracefully. And we finally got quiet. So both me and Manucha were just like enjoying the quiet. And my father calls, he's like, Mazel tov. And I'm like, for what?
yeah, and
It didn't
Larry
even dawn on me.
was, Nini, where are you? So thank God we were not on the side of the road. We were not in a gas station bathroom. But after that story, people always joke, Nini, you should like think about home birth because, you
Oof,
practically almost give birth at home. So that's the
you
next question we have for you, Rachel. What are your thoughts of home birth versus hospital birth?
okay, before I start that, I'm just going to say I have delivered a baby in my car, in an elevator, in a fishbowl elevator. I mean, a fishbowl door, those doors that, yeah. I have delivered in a bathtub. I've delivered in Hatsala. So the side of the road,
It's not even exciting anymore.
nah, nothing special. So, your question was about home births.
We get
A home
straight to it.
a home birth is amazing when it goes well. If your sister Hesha would have been planning a home birth, I'm not going to go there. You know the answer. They're incredible. You're in your own house. You're in what you want to wear. You don't have to be bothered with stupid questions 3 times over. First the nurse, and then the resident, then the doc. How many weeks are you? I know the drawbacks of a hospital, and I would say most of the time a home birth is incredible. Just sometimes it's not. And those are the reasons why I don't do them. I started doing them. I was doing them years ago, but I had a couple of experiences, and I know now in Crown Heights it's like a very popular thing.
That's why we had to bring it up. It's just it's really the topic and it's
So there's a
popular.
couple of things I have to say about it. Number one, what is the plan if things don't go the way you expect? Something starts going wrong. Mom starts bleeding. She's not ready to deliver. How do you get to the hospital? What's the plan? Oh, you call Hatsala. That's nice. Hatsala is a volunteer or organization. They're not getting paid for this. They're incredible. They do amazing work. I have a son in Hatsala. But you chose to do a home birth. something went wrong, and you pull 3 or 4 people away from their job, what they were doing, because you wanted to have a home birth. There has to be a better system set up. That's number one. I stopped doing home births when I had two specific stories. One, mom had been pushing for 4 hours. The baby was finally delivered. Actually, what happened was she had been pushing really for the full 4 hours. And I said to the midwife, I said, can I hold the baby down by pressing on the baby's butt? And she says, I can only do that with another home birth midwife. I said, so where is she? And she said, she'll be here in about 40 minutes. I said, so you're going to have that mom pushing in that baby for another 40 minutes? Baby was born eggplant purple. I'd never seen such a blue baby. Baruch Hashem, baby was resuscitated very quickly, pinked up. I'm not going with what the APGAR scores were for that baby because they weren't very high. By 5-10 minutes, the baby definitely looked a lot better. Would it have been different in the hospital? So people will say, yeah, she would have been sectioned. Not necessarily. There are other things to do to get a baby out. There's something called a kiwi, which is a vacuum. For the old-time doctors, there are other ways. There are other people who can help out. You don't have to wait another 45 minutes for another home birth midwife to get there. That was one. And on the lighter side is you have to remember, unless you're in a private house, birth isn't one of the most quiet things necessarily.
I always wondered about that.
And clean.
Oh, clean is not a big deal.
Traumatized some of my sisters just a little bit.
I think birth in a car is a lot less clean than if someone's having a home birth.
Right.
And it's quite expensive to have it cleaned. Over $100 just to have the car cleaned after someone's so kind as to deliver in it. But I was at a home birth. It was in Borough Park. And they had a basement apartment, this couple. And right upstairs from where they were living was this cute little Chassan Kala. And mom was quite vocal. And every time she got a contraction, she would literally, at the top of her lungs. That poor couple swore they were not having kids. It was really, it was it wasn't something that I could look back at and say, wow, what a beautiful experience. It wasn't. It just wasn't. She just didn't know what she was getting herself into.
So
And
as a doula, then when you're speaking to the moms on the phone, like at what point do you tell them like stay at home and labor at home? Or at what point do you say, okay, now it's time to, go to the hospital?
when I hear that little crack in their voice, it's time to go. It's time to go.
So you just know in their tone.
Yeah, as a doula, never speak to the husband. Oh, she's having another contraction. Yeah, she's on all fours. Okay, can I speak to her, please? I can talk for her. No, I want to hear her. And then when you hear her voice, you can tell. You can tell. How far apart are they? How long are they lasting? Gee, I really think you have some time at home. But if you want to go in, It's your birth, your body, your baby. We go. And sometimes we have the fun of going home, which I can usually tell once we're on our way. It's going to be a long morning because we're going to be going home and coming back another day.
So
But
as a
that's
doula, your job, it's like there's no way to know the hours of work. I mean,
right.
you're coming, you're going, you're middle of things. All I remember in high school, from when I was in school and I was teaching there was no one more excited than a Beishrifka girl when Mrs. Vail was out for a birth. Like, we were so happy for people having babies. I wish I felt that joy now for everyone, because it just meant you weren't coming, but you weren't always
Free
actually.
period.
I remember that. That was a lot of fun.
But how was that like for your family? I mean, 5,000 births, if I have to divide it into 40, you said about 42 years. And interesting, because when I Googled you for something and it said you had like 2,000 births only a couple years ago. So you've done a bulk of these births
I
recently.
was doing I was doing close to what was it, about 200 births a year.
Wow. That's almost every other day. And
It
I know you don't even
was
do summers.
it was definitely almost every other day, and sometimes more, sometimes two in a day. I've had where two people have called me within 15 minutes of each other, and one person's labor stopped and the other one went quickly. I remember one Rosh Hashanah driving from Staten Island to Long Island. This is fun. Let's just go for a tour of the city. I had one baby first in Staten Island, and I went over to Long Island and had a baby there.
Well, shout out to your birth last night with my friend. I said in her honor, it's a good thing she gave birth on Hanukkah so we could podcast tonight with you. And she said you were amazing. And, so that's
I'm not amazing. That's the thing. People ask me, "What do you do?" And I say, "I don't know. Whatever the mom needs." And it's true. Everybody needs something different. Some people need a hand to hold, or some people need a hand to squeeze, and some people just need someone to talk. Some people need massage. Some people, it's just like knowing there's somebody there that's there for you, not a medical, not someone who's going to say, "Oh, you need to do this and you need to do that." Will I get involved and say, I mean, there have been times where I've gone with people who said, "I do not want an epidural. Make sure I don't get one." And then in the middle of labor, she's like, "I don't want an epidural. I don't want an epidural." But she's not dilating. She's stressing. Her knuckles are white. She's holding her breath, and she hasn't made any change at all. And her contractions are like every 2 minutes. And baby's starting to stress. You know what? Sometimes the relaxation of an epidural, mom flies and ends up having a beautiful birth.
I feel like this is where you got to pop in, Adla.
I was going to say, this is really my question. Because I was going to say, I know that some people literally plan their births around you, Rachel. They're like, can't be due in July and August because Rachel's not available. I've heard people say that, like, their family planning is not how many kids they have. It's just when they're going to give birth. And meanwhile, you are always so good. And you always said, I'll come with you if you need. I personally never used a doula because I am on team epidural. And I always freak out when I see Mushki dancing and singing on a ball. Or I actually went with Nini for the one birth that was not short. And it was 7 hours long. And I was there with her as her doula. And she wasn't going with an epidural. And as somebody who does do epidurals, because I just feel like I can barely get my teeth cleaned without Novocaine, like it's so painful. And I've had both because of our medical system and how long it took for me to get an epidural, or it didn't work. Like, it's very, very hard not to have an epidural. It's, for the young girls who are listening, close your ears, don't listen. But like, it's painful. So I'm just like curious if maybe the modern medicine now or things have
Sorry,
changed.
Ayla. Do you remember after you and Nini had your first baby, you said, we're going on tour and telling people it's a lie. You don't forget. They tell you do it again because you forget. You don't forget. And like,
How do you have another kid? She's like, you just forget it all when you see your beautiful baby. And
No,
I'm
you
looking
don't.
at my baby and thinking, no, I still remember everything. It was very painful. But I'm wondering, Rachel, so when I started 18 years ago, if there has been a change in terms of epidural, what are your thoughts about it now? And again, I think after my second baby, where I was not able to get an epidural and it was a very traumatic birth, the doctor didn't show up. I remember saying the reason why people think they feel better when they don't have an epidural is because they thought they were going to die. And now that they're still alive and they're like, I feel amazing, because you do feel amazing. You feel invincible. While after an epidural, you're like, this hurts a little bit. That was my take on it, but I'd love your professional take.
Okay, so number one, the reason you felt incredible was not because you didn't die, but because there are endorphins that are released that you do not get when you have that epidural.
I was sure it was like a near-death experience, and I was like, I'm still here, people.
No, sorry. Nope, nope.
Everyone gets it.
Everyone, if you have a birth without an epidural, there is an incredible high that comes after it. There's no one's going to deny that. You don't have it anywhere near as much. You'll have it, but not as much when you do have an epidural. There is time and place where an epidural is fantastic. If not, it wouldn't have been created. There is an absolute time and place for an epidural. There are people who cannot deal with the pain, and there is an epidural for that. But you cannot say that an epidural has no risks. You cannot say that it doesn't lead to intervention, because usually one intervention leads to another intervention. Has the epidural morphed in the last 10, 15 years? Definitely.
Okay.
The type of medication they use, the amounts of medication, and the pump, which they are now using in, I would say, most hospitals, is definitely a big improvement. My guess is, how old is your oldest? You said 18?
Just about turning actually 17.
Okay, 17 years ago, you got an epidural and your legs were dead weights.
Yeah.
You couldn't move. You needed someone to roll you over in order to roll over. And now the concentration of medication and the types of medication, it's definitely a better epidural than it used to be. No question about it. But there are risks, and by saying there are no risks, you're fooling yourself.
I had this story with my last birth, 2 births ago, with my Ita. I had COVID. I was like isolated, and I just said, I need to have my epidural. They gave it once and it didn't work. And they're like, ma'am, you could just pretty much be done. And in my head, I'm like, I cannot do this without an epidural. So then I got a second one. It went down the wrong leg. I ended up with 3 epidurals that none of them took, and I had to give birth without it. And I was so disappointed.
You had to give birth
at 1, and I gave birth at 5.
You gave birth worse than no epidural, because not only could you not do anything because one side or the other side was numb, you couldn't do anything to help yourself. So yeah, that was a bad one.
That was a bad one, but then the next one Hashem gave me, I got my epidural 15 minutes after coming into the hospital. It was so beautiful. Me and mommy, we went through everyone in the family, their birth story. When we got to Manucha's birth story, I said, okay, I'm ready to have the baby. And out came Batya. You know, like I've had such amazing experiences. And in those moments, I think like this is such a beautiful way to give birth. Like, why do I have to be yelling like a maniac? I mean, Rachel, I'm the person that
You
yells
don't.
that I have to bring cookies to the nurses the next day because I'm so embarrassed of what I did the day before.
I think the nurses get more cookies and chocolate than you can possibly imagine. It all ends up in the break room. But an unmedicated birth can be incredible. You do need the right support person. You need a person who will keep you grounded in working through the contractions, being in a hot shower, walking around, doing your thing, and you can do it. And there's no risks. I mean, I had a mom
Signs for
not
possibly murdering your husband or something like that. So I think there are some risks, like, and saying, you know, I'll never have
okay.
children again.
So I had a mom very recently who did have it get it. She needed her epidural. She was at the point where give it a half hour in the shower and you will not need the epidural because your baby will be in your arms. And she had what's called a wet tap. She got the epidural, and the way the epidural works is it goes into the epidural space. Now it's a blind procedure. You know how they have you sit in that cat curled position? Because what's happening is when you sit like that, the spaces open up a little bit wider. It's a blind procedure. They have to get the needle through. And if it goes up or goes off to the side, the spinal fluid can leak. And that's what causes that horrible epidural headache. You get that epidural headache, and that's worse than any birth you can imagine. You can't sit up. You can't stand up. Every time you sit up, that headache comes back. It's worse than any labor. It can also cause your blood pressure to drop. Now, these are just some of the things that an epidural can cause. I'm not going into all of them. So when you get an epidural, it's like home birth. When you have a beautiful experience, it's incredible. When you get an epidural and it all goes right, it's wonderful. It's what you wanted. But when it goes not so right, it's a problem. So I had somebody recently, and it was not such a good epidural. And she got the epidural headache. But what's worse is it wasn't working, so they had to do it again.
Oh, no.
They did it again, and they got the wet tap. She had the epidural headache. It caused her blood pressure to drop like you can't imagine. They were busy giving her medication to bring her blood pressure up, blood pressure up, blood pressure up, blood pressure up, till they finally got her stable. She didn't have time for the epidural to work. She had a baby.
But it's probably still good, even if you're having an epidural, to have an advocate there and a doula. Because
Oh,
you
no
still have to push
question.
out the baby. You still need support when you're getting the epidural. Like, I don't think it's mutually exclusive, either a doula or an epidural, correct?
Oh, it's definitely not exclusive. This same mom actually got her epidural, and the baby's position was off. And the midwife kept saying, put her on this side. I said, I really don't think so. I think that if we put her on the other side, the baby will not have a choice but to move. And we did. And she had a baby.
And you get to be
And,
part of that miracle.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like what Ayla and Mushki said, like every time there are women together, they're always talking about their birth stories. Like I can't ever get away from it. But why do you feel like that is? Like no matter, like literally, like if there's a 1 minute of silence, someone's birth story is like coming in. Like you can never run away.
Let me ask you something. If you ran a marathon, would you talk about how great you did?
I really don't see that happening anytime soon. So if it did, it would be a miracle. So I probably would tell people.
Okay. Every time you have a baby, you ran a marathon. And you know what? You came in first place.
Aw, I
You're
love
going to talk about it. You're going to
Wait, when are
talk
we going
about
to
it.
talk about Manucha's birth story?
Hi, Manucha.
Hi.
The day after Tisha B'Av.
It's
How do
true.
you remember?
Oh my gosh, how could I forget?
There are only three people that remember my birthday. It's Ma, Ta, and Mrs. Vale.
No,
No,
no.
you're wrong. You're wrong.
Abby and Bailey were here
Bailey.
too.
Oh, yes, they were. So your mom thought she was in labor, and I work in camp during the summer, so I don't go with ladies during the summer. But your mom, we've been friends for a million years.
He's special.
But she's
Uh-huh.
only 30 years old, so like it wasn't that long, Rachel.
Yeah, 100%. I'm only 33. So like we're right there. Um, but I remember we were listening to Echa, and she called that she's in labor. And I told my boss, this is the person I told you about. I'm going in with my friend who's having a baby. And I got into the car and I drove to the city. And your mom's labor stopped. So I said, just in case it starts again, I'll spend the night. I went over to the house. Nothing was doing. Nothing. I had to get back to camp. Tisha B'Av is a very crazy day in camp because everybody's fasting and it's hot and they're bored and they drank 10 gallons, so they were up all night peeing. So inevitably, you're going to have a bunch of guys that are going to faint and feel sick and da 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 da. Anyway, so about late afternoon, Tisha B'Av, I said, look, I really, I have to get back up to camp. I don't have a choice. So I was bringing Abby and Bailey back up with me. They were in the car, and we started driving to go back up to camp. Exit 99. We're on the New York State Thruway, and your mom calls, and she says, this time it's real. I'm really in labor. So, like I said before, the exits on the New York State Thruway are really far apart. And we missed an exit by about 2 minutes. So we had to drive to the next exit. Abby was driving, and I said, Abby, just drive. Hurry up. Get to the next exit. We're turning around. We're going to Staten Island. You guys can hang out in the Beaker Holem room with your dad, by the way, because not only was Abby really good friends with your brother, he's also still very close with your father. Anyway, I'm walking around the halls with your mom, and the elevator door opens, and there's Abby, and there's Bailey, and there's me and your mom in labor. We're walking around. We walked in, we got into labor and
It's
delivery, and
quite
she
a
had her
party.
baby, you. And then, of course, Abby and Bailey had to meet you and had to go give Mazel Tov to your mother. So they got to say Mazel Tov. It was a fun story. And
So
then we
Manucha
drove
had the
back to
most
camp.
social birth.
Oh,
Rachel, what do you think? Like, what do you wish that more women knew about birth, like going into birth?
that they should trust their bodies. I wish they knew that they could really trust their bodies. I say it all the time. Trust your body. And of course, there are exceptions. People who have trouble getting pregnant, people with PCOS, people who've gone through IVF or IUI or have had many miscarriages. Yeah, it's a lot harder for them to trust. But if you've got a mom who's married 13 months and she's due any day, Just trust your body. It knows what to do. It's amazing if you can just trust. Trust your body. Allow the contractions to happen. Go with the wave. They don't last more than a minute. You can deal with a minute. I know you disagree with me a little bit, but they don't. They last for a minute.
I have done, for a big talker, I've done 3 or 4 births without epidurals. Not by choice. It wasn't Bechira, but I've done it.
But you were screaming so much, you couldn't even enjoy those endorphins, Adla.
No, I was pretty proud, especially when it was my son. So I know it can be done, you know?
Go ahead.
I'm going to say, but Rochel, when you send us selfie videos with Mushki dancing, that's where I draw the line.
I thought it was the shaitel that threw you off.
Why?
Okay, there was a shaitel. There was literally dancing. I mean, explain it to us, please.
Okay, because she trusts her body. You know, when I had my baby, who's not a baby, she's a mom of 4, Shayna, I was like Mushki. I was so excited. I was so excited that my body knew what to do. I wasn't 25. She's already, well, I'm only 35. So, but she's 27.
The math is working.
It does, right?
Adla's a math teacher. If she says
I know it's working. Don't worry.
I hate math. But seriously, I was thrilled. My body knew what to do. We're so used to. It's cool. It's incredible. It's incredible. Birth is unbelievable. It's phenomenal. And if you look at it like that, I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. I'm not going to say, woohoo, it's so fun. But if you look at it and you go with how incredible your body's working and it knows what to do and you just trust it and you sing and you dance through the halls. And you know what? When you go into it with that attitude, everybody sings and dances with you. So the whole atmosphere becomes...
Methodists can attest.
Uh-huh. It's just a different feeling. No one's looking at it as, It's wow. And that makes such a difference.
Rochel, are there like blackout days? Like I'm looking at the date, like it's New Year's, it's, Xmas. Like, are there days where you're like, people do not give birth these days? Or like, if you're there, it could happen any day and you'll be there to take care of them?
Any day. 24/7.
Because my mother always talks about Menucha's story, since we all know it. Tisha B'Av, like Yom Kippur for Mushki.
It is what it is.
But Rochel, I remember just being like so empowering.
It's incredible.
I remember going with you. I was, even when I was in LA and like Baruch Hashem, I had such great doulas. And I'm very lucky. I had great experiences in LA too. But with each birth, I still called you. And I was like, Rochel, my doula's saying this. My doctor's saying this. Like, what do you think? And I was so excited to then our last birth. But I remember asking you, like, wait, do you want to check me? How am I doing? Do you want to check? And you're like, I don't need to check you, Mishki. You'll know. And just you saying that was so empowering. Nina, can I give a shout out to your mother-in-law, who is my college teacher, and I think she's the one that was the first one to put that little thing in my head. And she said, I know you're just getting married, but I want to tell you, labor is so painful. But when you go through life, you're going to go through so many painful situations, and you're going to think, I can never get through it. And the fact that you got through your labor, it's like this little strength you carry with you.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, do you feel like that, Rochel?
Oh, 100%. You said something, Adel, about dancing through the halls in her shaitel.
Oh, they already warned me. They're like, you can have Rochel on, but we're definitely going to scream at her that you wore a sheitel.
Why not? Why not?
It's just impossible. Like, we could barely get it together, and there she's still wearing a sheitel. Like, what about the rest of us?
She's not the only one, but I do recommend a short one because the long ones kind of pull back. But you know what? Why not? Why shouldn't a woman look and feel incredibly beautiful through her birth? And
No,
you know, and I know, we all look better in a sheitel than we do with just a tichel.
I
And
know,
if
I
that
feel
makes
that some
and
people, after they see me giving birth, they want me to be their mashpia. And I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with that. I just like want to feel in control. After my mother told me how Ayla and Nini, how loud their births were, she's like, I'm telling you, once they lost control, that was it. You have to stay in control. So I remember thinking like, what will help me feel in control? And it's more just like, I feel more like a person in a wig, and I could show up and, so that's, I think that if I'm able to,
okay,
and
so I have
I don't think Sarah Khana Silverstein, people don't know this. She was my first doula because I was in LA, and during the year she doesn't take people. But I remember she also told me like, just see, like, she was telling me about, my body and how you have more of a say, like, in your birth. It doesn't just happen to you. You could have control. So I remember thinking like, let me just see. I think some people are like right away, like, hey, I need an epidural. And I was like, let me just, I didn't go in saying, oh, I want to do it natural for sure. But I was just like, let me see. Like, I'm just pro woman seeing, like, let me go in and just see what my body can do on its own. Baruch Hashem, my labors, thank God, have been very short. So I didn't, if it was 12 hours, I might be like, give me that epidural. But it was really,
mm-mm,
no.
mm-mm, no.
She wouldn't let you.
No, no. Her birth, her baby, her labor. No. It's what you want. And unless I feel that it's something that could be not unhelpful, would be the word. I just want to tell you a funny story about someone I had who also really wanted to wear a sheitel during her birth. And she had this long sheitel, and it was before all the gorgeous sheitels. It was one of the, it was a bunch of years ago. And it kept slipping, it kept falling off. And she really, really, really wanted the baby to be born with her hair completely covered in a sheitel for frum reasons, not just for the way she felt and looked. She wanted her baby to be born in a sheitel, but the sheitel was not working. I always keep a tichel or two in my labor bag just in case. I took my sheitel off. It was a short little sheitel. I put on a tichel and I gave her my sheitel. And she wore that through her birth. And she had the birth with a sheitel on her head. Not necessarily the right color, but she had the birth that she wanted with a sheitel covering her head.
That's like you took the shirt off your back, but you upped it by like 3 levels, and you took the sheitel off your head.
Just something like that. There have been so many funny stories, so many surprise. How about surprise twins?
Oh, wow.
Who's more shocked? Like, is it the mother or the
I
father?
feel like
Who
the father
panicked?
faints, no? Like,
Nah. So one father was outside the room, and remind me, I am not hanging up this podcast until I tell you one very incredible story. Remind me, but this was a story of a surprise twins. Her first baby was like 9 pounds, so she just figured she's having another 9 pounder. We get to the hospital and she's in labor and da da da, and out comes this little 5 pound peanut. And the doctor says, "Oh my goodness, I wonder if there's another one.
Oh my God.
And he checks her, and sure enough, there was another one. And the mom said, I'm not pushing. I'm not having
I'm done. I
twins.
did it already.
And the dad is walking outside of the room. His mouth was somewhere around the floor.
I can't.
I mean, you could have just walked on into his mouth. It was like, "Ah, I'm not pushing. I'm not having twins." And he's busy going, bah.
So what did
Anyway,
you do, Rachel? What is the
As a
I
doula do?
said,
Did you
doula,
prepare for this in your course?
I was busy telling her how great she's going to do as a mom of twins. And how lucky she is, and I'm a twin, and twins are the best, and she's going to have so much nachas from them. But let's get this other baby out. And she looks at me and she goes, "Can I have a bugaboo donkey?" That was the carriage of the day. "Honey, you can have two of them. Just push, okay?" And she had her second baby.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
like I
Did
said,
you?
I could go on and on with story after story after story. Incredible,
Now, birth is
incredible.
incredible. In fact, like my whole wish is for my daughters to be like L&D nurses or involved in that because you're literally seeing miracles every single day. Like that's the part that like I think is so fascinating.
You know, my daughter Shayna is a nurse.
Does she do labor and delivery?
She does postpartum.
Postpartum. And probably your work, and not probably, your work has to have inspired her. Like,
Oh, no kidding. No, 100%. During COVID, we worked together in Methodist as doulas during the whole COVID. But see, they didn't like me much because I will stick up for my mom no matter what. They don't have to like me. But after COVID, I didn't get carried on, which was fine because I do my own thing. Um, but I said, I'm not going to finish this without a very, very important story that to me, how about two? Just two stories. Just two stories?
nobody's turning off the podcast while you're talking, Rachel. Let me tell you. You go ahead.
Okay. One story was a very long time ago, like really long time ago. I remember getting to their house. It wasn't much of a house, it was a basement apartment. The bathroom was outside the apartment. It was awful. Their furniture consisted of those cardboard box dressers, you know, the cardboard pull out type of dresser with a piece of a wood across it. And like really, really newlyweds, no money. And I stayed with her and she had her baby. And he came to pay me. And I said, Mm-mm, I'm not interested. Please take it and buy things for your wife, for your baby. Please. And he said, no. From the day I found out my wife is pregnant, I took $10. This goes back a long time. I was charging $400 for a birth. And I put $10 into an envelope. And every week for the last 40 weeks, I've put $10 into the envelope. And you have to take it because you cannot tell me my wife is not worth $10 a week.
Wow.
We
Right.
we 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 made a pshara. I
Wow.
took a quarter.
Wow. Ruckel, I was actually, when you sent me the price, I like looked a few times because I remember, how much you were years ago. And then I was like, oh, wow. Like, it seems like everything's been going up, and especially doulas. And I totally understand why doulas have to raise their price and why it is this big sum because it's so unpredictable. But like you somehow, is it like a like just because you feel like you want it to be accessible to everyone, that you've been keeping your prices the same? I was just so like, I was so
The
like, just
the
hats off to you. Actually, you guys don't know this, but when I was talking to Rochel, she said when she did her birth 2 days ago, could I say the story, Rochel? It's
sure.
the cutest story. She said she met another doula with
Oh,
another woman when she was in the hospital. And the other doula said, "What's your name?" And the other doula was sitting down and she said, "Rochel Vail." And the other doula stood up as if it was like a rub. She's like, "You're Rochel Vail." And she just stood up to her. And really, like, hats off to you and, for what you've been doing in this like miraculous work and inspiring so many people to go into this and be a support. Like,
Right.
what better thing to be a support for mothers and I know even single people that are doing this. Everyone sees like the value in this, but I'm saying, is that like something that you're very strong about? Like,
okay.
I'm going to keep the cost down so it's accessible for everyone. How do you manage to do that?
So Rosh Hashanah, the Abishah says how much you're going to make. You're going to make exactly that. You're not going to make a penny more. You're not going to make a penny less. I've been doing it for a long time, and Baruch Hashem, we have always had food on our table. We have always paid our bills. The Abishter takes care of those who are taking care of others. Or the Abishter takes care of fools, and I'm one of his favorite. Take your pick, whichever way you want to look at it. But yes,
I'm literally, you mentioned that story, Mushki, and I feel like that lady probably just saw you as like Shifra and Pua of our day. No, like that's like the vibe that I'm getting. Like she's like, I'm meeting someone who's just bringing neshamas into the world. It's
by the
truly
way,
incredible.
do you know when that girl finally delivered? That girl who had the doula?
Yeah.
9:30 that night.
And this was early in the morning. Like,
This was like 6, 7 in the morning.
Mm.
Yeah, poor mama.
um, ouch, ouch.
Yeah.
Rachel, we also love to give very practical tips to our listeners. Seeing so many of, 5,000 births, what are a few practical things you could, if you were everyone's doula out there, what could you tell them? A few practical tips pre-birth and just postpartum that you wish every single person knew.
Well,
Besides sure it's your body, like, or something to take with you, or about a
postpartum,
hospital.
do yourself a big favor. Go out and buy a package of Depends diapers
We're
for
very
women.
practical here. We just went up. Which brand?
Depends.
Depends. 10% off if you mention Rachel.
They are so much more comfortable than pads. You can roll over in bed after you have a baby. You don't get all messy. Much more comfortable. That is as practical as it
If
gets.
any high school girls are listening, now's the time to exit the podcast.
Nah, they got to hear about it sooner or later. That's like as practical as it gets. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I want to labor in something I'm comfortable in. You can bring your own nightshirt. You can bring your own hospital gown. Bring something you're comfortable to labor in.
You feel so
No,
much better when you're in your own
in
pajamas.
your
That's what I
own
find.
things. But I'm talking about not just for postpartum. I'm talking about during labor. There's no reason why you can't wear a long nightshirt. And nowadays you can go online. You can get the tznius nightgowns that are like hospital gowns. You can wear a shirt and skirt if you want to.
Yeah,
It might
I've only labored once, had one baby in a hospital gown, the one that Adla was by, and it was my worst birth. So
um
I don't think it was the hospital gown, Nini, but
it was
okay.
Adla. but like, it's definitely, you feel much better in your own clothes.
In your own clothes. Know that you might not want to take it home with you, but that's okay. Another thing that's very practical that people really need to know. You know, I've seen birth plans. People write up birth plans. 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages. I've seen one birth plan that I couldn't help turning and laughing. It had to be about 15 pages long. I think she just copied every birth plan from a book. But know what you would like, but know that it's not written in stone. Because things happen in birth that make you have to change your opinion and maybe go and do it a different way. I had a mom who, I want to labor in my clothes. I want to be able to, and she had a whole list. The first thing that happened after we got to the hospital, her water broke with thick meconium all over her pretty skirt that was now sopping wet, drenched with meconium. For those of you who don't know it, meconium means that the baby's pooped. Now, it's green, it can be pea soup, it can be light. Most of the time it means nothing, but a lot of times it means that the baby's in stress. Stop worrying about, I want to labor in my skirt with my top,
You
da
ripped
da
up
da.
that 15-page plan.
Yes, rip it up. Don't write it in stone. Birth is the unknown. It can change at any moment. Go with the flow. Don't lock yourself into something. When you lock yourself into it, it always goes wrong. Just go with it. Read before you go into it. Those are really, the real important things.
Is there a book you recommend besides for what to expect when you're expecting? I don't know if that's
I
even a
hate
thing
that book.
anymore.
Oops, I can't say that. I hate that book. It should,
Throw mine out.
okay, it should be called What Can Go Wrong When You're Expecting Will Go Wrong. It is as negative as it could be. If this is happening, go to the hospital because this is happening. It's very negative. I found Labor of Love is a pretty empowering book. It everybody skips the chapter on C-sections. Don't skip that chapter on C-sections. Read it because it can happen to you. And Baruch Hashem, it can happen to you because Baruch Hashem, it saves a lot of babies' lives. So, but Labor of Love is a really good book. I highly recommend it. And How to Heal from a Traumatic Birth is another book I highly recommend if your birth didn't go the way you really wanted it to.
For all our New York listeners, do you have any tips about hospitals quickly, and
Um,
is that for another
going
podcast?
going into the city, okay. So you've got a lot of nice hospitals in the city, but they're hospitals. They're very doctory, they're very medical. If you're going to go to any of them in the city, because you have to go into the city because it's much better care, NYU is pretty cool. It's a nice hospital, nice young nurses. It is a pretty good hospital. Schlepping out to all over the place, Columbia, Sinai. Why? If you have a reason, 100%. But as people say, like every few years, the pendulum swings this way or that way. It used to be natural, and now it's like, we have to induce you at 39 weeks. Your baby's too big. Your baby's too small. Your baby's too high. Your baby's
You're
too
too
low.
old.
You're too old. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 35, geriatric pregnancy. You better get those false teeth and a cane to walk in with. Come on. If the
Been
Abishter
there, done that.
wanted,
It's true.
if the Abishter wanted you to stop having babies at 35, You'd stop having babies at 35. Stop it. You're not God. Geriatric at 35. You're a stupid baby at 35. Ah. I hate that word. I really hate that word. Leave it for my age, geriatric. And I don't like it my age, so why should I like it at 35? But I said I'm not hanging up on this podcast till I tell an important story.
Let's hear the story. Then Mushki will do the fast five. And I mean, I want to go on for hours talking about birth stories. We got to save some for part
For the bungalow colony.
For the bungalow colony.
Okay. Again, it was a while ago. I can tell you exactly which room I was in and which hospital and which doctor because it made such an impression. I came with the couple, and until mom becomes Anita, I see nothing, I hear nothing. I know how she got pregnant, you know? And he was rubbing her back. Great, that's wonderful. And he was massaging her legs. That's great, that's wonderful. And she became Nida. And I said, there's been some bleeding. Next contraction, he's rubbing her shoulders. There's been some dam, hint, hint. Continuing. Then at one point, I said, hey, dam nida, you know that stuff? And in one ear, out the other, he was helping her. By the way, I just got, someone wanted to book me, and when I told them that story, they unbooked me.
They didn't want a Rav coming along with them.
I'm not. I'm really not. I'm really not. I'm not. But the baby's heart rate went down, and they were having trouble having it come back up. They were moving mom. They were doing, and the heartbeat kept dropping. And at one point, the doctor said, open the operating room. We're going to probably need a C-section. And he still, I said, listen, can I talk to you outside for a minute?
Now it's the
And
principal.
he came out with me, and I said, listen, your wife's in a makom sakana. Your baby's in a makom sakana. Could you keep your grubby hands to yourself? And I've told husbands, while I'm here, let me do my job. When I leave, tuva du willst. Anyway, he said, you're right.
To ask you, doula or husband, who should you take? Who should you leave at home?
I've had many a husband stay home. Anyway, he said, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking, but she was in pain, and I just wanted to help her. I just wanted to help her. And he took his hands and he put them behind his back, holding on to, like he was like holding his hands like this behind his back. And we walked back into the room. And she called him over, and he whispered something to her. I don't know what he whispered. His hands are still behind his back. He backed away from her, and the heart rate went back to normal. The doctor said, close the OR. Close the operating room. I don't know what you guys just did out there, but keep doing it because it's working. And she had a vaginal birth. End of story.
Wow. Well, Rochel, we're so excited you came onto this podcast and agreed. And I told everyone, I said, Rochel agreed to come on, but it might be one of those high school CPR moments, with, condition if there's not a birth, because she does have a few people lined up, but we're so honored to have you on. And we do just a very fast, quick five. Just a fun way to end whatever style birth you have, whoever's on here, whether it's, home birth, C-section. I actually heard a new word. Ruckel, are you aware of freestyle birth? Have you? Okay, we're going to continue. We are going to continue. Fast five. Rochel, between us sisters right here, who's most likely to do hypnobirthing? It's fast.
Hesha.
Aww.
I want to put on music.
Now, who's most likely to do hypnobirthing and the second labor starts, throw it out the window with that birth plan?
Hey, Doula.
She knows us well.
Shredded the birth plan.
Who's most likely to scream the loudest?
Oh, come on, Nini.
Oh my gosh.
Who's most likely not to tell anyone she's in labor and just write Mazel Tov on the family chat?
Online, you mushki.
You were
They
there. You
still
know this
won't
happened.
forgive me. They
Never.
still won't forgive me. And last one, I don't know. Who is most likely to give birth in a shaitel?
All of you.
Aw.
From now on.
Yes.
It's not as bad as you guys think it is.
Wow. And I'm just, which one of us, I'm adding in one more, can you see actually becoming a doula?
Nini.
Aw.
Mimi, that's so
Never thought of
sweet.
myself, but I'll take it. Why not?
I thought it was going to be
Wow.
Manucha. I thought she just has that
Warm.
calming vibe.
I don't know her well enough.
Aidlo was a
Well,
great
you need an
doula.
You should have
assistant.
kept up your relationship with her from day one.
Hello, I don't care. I'll take it. I love it. Who knows? Doula and Corpus. Who needs me? I think I have the most kids in this city, but besides for that,
So you're the most
Now you're-
experienced.
this was so informative and so great.
This is so fun, informative, and thank you, ladies, for hanging in there so we could have Rochel. Now, whoever would like to give birth, you can call Rochel, and she will do door-to-door service with you to the hospital. And
Shout out to the Vail girls that listen. We're so glad that we have
Yes.
them here.
And to the Vail family who's been really supporting Rochel in this work. I'm sure like this is not something you could just do alone when you're leaving someone, whoever's babysitting, taking over Shabbos. It's like a whole family affair. And I love how your kids are all like so excited in it. It's like who had a baby? They all feel, you make them feel like, not like you're abandoning them, but like they're all part of it.
You know, I said I'm an EMT for like a long time. Let's leave it at a long time. Bailey's an EMT. Mendy is in Hatzalah. I have one grandson who is an EMT. My son and another son are both taking EMT classes right now. And my daughter Shayna is the nurse. So, you know, it definitely in their own way rubbed off.
Hired them.
All from that one baby on the New York State Thruway.
You
Think
got
about
it.
that when you're driving on the 87 up to the country.
No one will ever look at that throughway again.
Oh no, that gas station, every time we go by it.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And Rochel, you got to stick that finger out because we say a little goodbye. We say see you next week on
The Sisters Chat.
The Sisters Chat.